Hello, and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking Abjuration. I'm just going to walk you through the dungeon that I've built, how I came up with some of the ideas, and what my players can expect. So let's just have a look here. Boop. So this is the dungeon layout. It looks a lot bigger than it is. A lot of the dark areas I'm not actually using. But before we go on to that, let's go on to this instead. Have a look at the spells. Oh, I haven't even got it ready. Look at me being unprepared. Wizard, School, Abjuration. Okay, so Abjuration, protecting, warding, breaking traps, things like that. So we've got spells like Shield, which is one of the most common spells used to make yourself less or more likely to defend, protections, protection from energy, things like that, banishment. So first thing I did, just went through the spell list, thought about how I could use them. It's a lot of like stopping effects or stopping spells, counterspell, shield, things like that make it hard to hit things. So I thought that would be kind of annoying for my players if all the monsters had shield or some of them could counterspell. So instead, I've decided to make it trap focused, and while there will be these protectory sort of spells in there as well, it's going to benefit the players in a lot of ways as well. So I'll show you how I did that. I'll show you my little brainstormy thing. With this one, my brainstorm, I sort of didn't get a lot into it, and I added a lot of things in the dungeon that aren't a part of this level, but I'll just show it to you anyway, just to show you my process. Traps everywhere. All the traps. Traps. Also, the Abjuration Wizard, they have, as a part of their ability, they have like a ward that anytime they cast a spell, they get temporary hit points. So I've changed that a little bit, so every time a trap is set off, the bad thing that they have to fight at the end gains more temporary hit points, and they will be told about this, and I'll tell you about it when I get to the dungeon. Anti-magic field fight, that's going to play a big part into the dungeon. A scatter fight, which is a new spell from Xanathars, scattering players everywhere. I've got a really cool puzzle which I'm really excited about with that one. Private Sanctum puzzle, planar travel is not permitted in the dungeon. There's no puzzle, it's just you can't do planar traveling, which might affect some of the monsters that they fight. Elemental resistance, there's sort of like a little trap or a puzzle that's with an encounter, and then the absorb elements encounter or puzzle, which I'll go through. And then a prismatic wall puzzle, which is not really a puzzle, it's stop the minions from killing themselves and setting off the traps, but we'll go through that. Okay, so this is the big dungeon we got here. Probably the best place to start is not where the players are starting, but with these two anti-magic fields. Sorry, Roll20 has been a little laggy right now, but that's fine. Okay, so here, we have a big orb glowing, illuminating the area, and it is also humming. This is the orb that is casting anti-magic field on this half of the map. So this circle, basically everything that I've got on the screen right now is that you cannot cast any spells. Nothing can happen. You can't cast the light spell to see. You literally can't use any magic. All of the doors also in this side of the dungeon can only be opened with magic. So even if the players go and explore down these tunnels, they're going to see all these doorways, but they are not going to be able to open any of them because you need magic to do that. So the first thing that they have to do on this side is destroy this anti-magic creating fields, blah blah blue blue. Once they kill that or destroy it, magic can now be cast in this half of the dungeon. So immediately there's going to be these two suits of armor, which are just regular suits of armor. They are going to animate and attack now that the the anti-magic field has disappeared. Their internal magics that was controlling them can come and they can attack, and this pile of bones is going to turn into a few skeletons and stuff. Super easy encounter. It's just to show them the magic, anti-magic field. There's also going to be these wards. They're traps that when the players walk over them without the field, nothing's going to happen. But if they walk over them when the orb has been destroyed, they will go off because the magic that is controlling them can now activate. Yeah, so depending on how many traps they set off in here, I've also got some rope traps hidden, which are the snare, which is in Xanathar's as well, which is just snares them into the air with a rope and they dangle there upside down. It shouldn't be too hard, but it's just really to introduce them to this mechanic of the anti-magic. Before I go to the rest of this side, we'll go to the other side of the dungeon. Now, in this similar room, there is an anti-magic field as well. So, all of the thing with this side is, if we just go to this, they can go into here, but it's just going to be 2 rocks on a pedestal. There's just going to be this mechanical puzzle device that isn't moving and isn't doing anything, and they're not going to know how any of that works. So they're going to see all these things, but they can't do anything about it until they have destroyed this. So what happens on this side? They walk in, they see 3 circles. They see a fire circle, a ice circle, and just a ring in the middle. They will find out that with an Arcana roll or something like that, I'll basically give them the information. It's not that hard. The rings are protective in nature. If you're in the fire ring, you're immune to fire damage. If you're in the cold one, you're immune to cold damage. If you're in the middle one, creatures that attack you have disadvantage. Now, that's all well and good, but they don't see any creatures. They see these, you can't really see it too well, but under these 2 giants are some wards, which are basically a spell that was keeping the... it's like a spell that they are in, but because there's no magic, that they're not inexistent at all. So once they destroy this, it's like Leomund's tiny hut. They're sort of like in a hut, but now that the magic has been dispelled, they're sort of trapped inside this hut because they can't use magic. And then once the magic gets destroyed, another orb is going to take its place, and then it's going to glow red, and then everyone in the room is going to take fire damage. But there's a fire giant and a frost giant, and they're going to come up and fight the party. So the fire giant is obviously immune to fire, but the frost giant is, so he'll take damage, and whoever is not in this protective circle will also take damage. So it's just a simple encounter where basically the players have to decide whether they want to be immune to the fire damage, immune to the cold damage, or have disadvantage from the 2 giants. And yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting encounter. But once those 2 orbs have been destroyed, then we get into the real fun stuff. So I'll go back to this side. So first thing, actually, I should go to this chest here. So this chest at the top, the players, once they walk in, there's a chest, no lock, they open it, and it's going to have a note in it and a little bit of gold. And it's just going to say, there are traps everywhere, setting them off shields your final enemies. So now they know that there are traps everywhere. And setting them off makes their enemies at the end harder to fight. Now, we have this hallway. This is my scatter puzzle. When the group walk into this, I'll let them investigate and stuff, but just for the sake, there's no way they can avoid this. It's just, unless maybe it's like a 30 investigation or something like that. This is a fun puzzle dungeon. Things, like all of the traps in the chests and stuff like that, they can disable or they can dispel. But this one it's supposed to be a fun little encounter, so I'm not going to make it so that they can just dispel it and walk away from it, because what's the fun in that? And it's not really going to hurt them too much. So how it works: scatter. Sorry, in this area, scatter. You shoot people in different areas. The players are going to roll a d10, and each of these rooms have a corresponding number. So this these 2 rooms with the tables are 1. So the 2 lowest players. So if someone rolls a 2 and a 3, those 2 people are going to be in these rooms. Then the next highest is going to be in this room. The next highest is going to be in this room. And the next highest is going to be in this room. So they're all going to be by themselves. And the 3 in the rooms are going to be fighting Darklings, and the other 2 with the table are going to have this in front of them. So I'll put them in this room here. And they have 4 items on the desk, and each of these glyphs corresponds with a room. So 1 is the other table room, 2 is the first guy fighting the Darkling, 3 is the second guy fighting the Darkling, and 4 is the next person. So they each have to give aid to their allies. So if they put this stone in, it will cast Stone Skin. So if they put the stone in the second glyph, the person who's in the second room will gain Stone Skin in their fight with the Darkling. If they get rope, it will snare them. So each of these things just does a different thing, and it helps their allies in their fight. It's not really that complex or hard. Like these Darklings, the players could probably fight by themselves, but I don't want to just kill them. Also, and then once each player kills their Darkling, the door opens and they can escape. But yeah, I think that's just a cool way to use the spell. Something different, make some of the players fight while the others are figuring out what the hell all of these items on the all the items on the table are. So next we go down this hallway. So when the anti-magic field is going off, so there's no magic in this hallway. If the players walk down here, they're gonna hear creatures in these rooms. They're gonna hear like giant banging from this Hydra room. They're gonna hear screeching, and they're gonna hear like the imp talking to them in Abyssal. But once the anti-magic field has been disabled, they're not gonna hear anything, and these doors can be opened. And what they're gonna see are gems. So I think I made it a token. Maybe it was a map. So there are gems in here. You can't really... Well, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's move that back. Anyway, there are gems in these rooms. And inside the gems are the creatures. So you look inside this tiny gem, you see a tiny little Hydra. Same with the imp and same with the spider. But the thing is, and if this happens, it happens. But if not, we'll see. They can take the gems, and if they somehow go to this side of the map when the field is still going, these gems are going to dispel again, and these creatures are going to come alive for whatever happens with that. They could go and quickly destroy the other orb because they know that's a thing, or they could try and fight these creatures, but they're going to really struggle, I can tell you that. But yeah, that's just I can't remember exactly what the spell is. Where is it? I think it might be Imprisonment, yeah. So there's a Minimis containment. So it's basically just using the Minimis containment part of that spell. Just for something different. Or the players could just leave the gems in there. Totally likely that they'll do that. Next, we just have 3 rooms with 3 chests. Each of them have information and a little bit of gold in them. So... And obviously all of them are trapped because the players have been told that, and they need to be careful, otherwise they're gonna explode. So it's basically telling them which one of the final enemies is the strongest and which is the weakest. And then in this is going to be a couple of potions of resistance, which we're just going to roll randomly to see what the resistance is. Cool. So that's one side of the dungeon. The next we have this puzzle. So in this. There's going to be something written saying that there are 5 different vessels here, and you need to fill them with the energy of the 5 energies that protection from energy and absorb energy can protect you from. So it's thunder, cold, fire, acid, and lightning. I looked at all the players. They have, if they don't buy an acid vial, they have a lightning javelin that they could use. They have the paladin, surprisingly, is the one who has all these. He's got Searing Smite and Thunder Smite. So they've got thunder, lightning, and fire. So as long as they don't use the lightning javelin somewhere else, they can do this puzzle. because in this room there are 2 rocks or gems that are just changing color, and with an Arcana check they can know that as they change color they are filled with a different type of energy. And if the players grab the rock when it's at the right energy, so they need cold and acid, so they grab it when it's green and they grab it when it's blue, and then they can put that in there, and that will basically have the same effect as using a spell. Then if they do that, they will get banished. One player will get banished to this room here in the middle, and choose whether they want protection or destruction. If they choose protection, they'll get like a cool shield or a really good armor. If they choose destruction, maybe like a spell stone or something. I haven't quite decided exactly what the items are going to be, but one's going to be defense, one's going to be offense, and they get to decide that. So this is just a puzzle that gives them a reward if they can figure it out, and if they haven't used their resources before going to it. And I think the writing is going to be there, so maybe they'll go here before they even destroy the anti-magic field, and they'll know not to use their javelin in the big fight there. Next is this little trap here. So this little chest. It says, remember, setting off trap empowers your enemies, but your enemies can also set off traps. So basically it's alluding to this next little thing here. So if I'm probably going to open this door here, and the players are going to see, if they want, they can walk in here before the anti-magic field goes off, because they're just going to see shrubbery everywhere. They're going to see lifeless vines on the ground, and they're going to see a flower up here, which you can't really see because I've got something on the GM layer. But when the anti-magic field is dispersed, these vines are going to move, and they want to get this flower. They want this flower, but protecting the flower is a prismatic wall. And I'm considering this as a trap for the sake of the shield, shielding the final bosses. So I've got a lot of little vine blight thingies here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 12 little dudes who could walk into this wall and kill themselves and give the bad guys 12 boosts of their shield. I'm thinking every time a trap goes off and the shield increases, I might play a sound, so when they see the first guy go into this, they see that they really need to stop these creatures. And the vine blights, they're not going to attack, they're just going to keep walking forward, and they're really slow, so they'll get a couple of rounds in before all of them get to the end. But yeah, it's basically just a puzzle encounter, I suppose you would call it, just to make the players try and stop these things, as opposed to having just a regular fight, have, some vines walking into a shield and you have to stop them, which I think is just a little bit more interesting. Next we have just another chest with information. For every enemy you kill, Helen will give you a reward. So there's 3 enemies at the end. If they want to try kill all 3 of them, they can, but killing one of them is going to be hard enough. And then in this chest here is just another potion. And so that is the pretty much the dungeon, besides obviously the final fight. So once the players have done enough in here, I'll open the door up so that they can go in here. We have a long hallway. This, if you look at the dynamic lighting, this room here is not a part of it. But this here is just an empty room. I put this here because there are traps everywhere, and I just think it's going to be funny because the players are going to come to this empty room and they're just going to think, where's the trap? Where is it? I've got to find it, otherwise we're all going to die. But there's nothing. It's just an empty hallway. Sort of just screwing with them psychologically. And then the next room, we have Helen. She is the leader wizard who created this. She's all about protection. So as a As a Abjuration wizard, you can class Planar Binding. You bind a celestial, elemental, fae, or fiend to your service. So she's super powerful. She's done this. She has an ice demon. She has a diva. I'm gonna say he's like a fallen diva, so he's evil because I want her to be a nice lady. And then we've got a glazebru, whatever you call them, with some lemurs. So demons, devil, and celestial. So she's bound them, but she's kind-hearted and she doesn't have the heart to kill them herself. So this is the final challenge. The players have to choose one of these rooms, and they will get a reward for killing one of these creatures. But here we have different wards, so they each have to choose which one they want. So as before they go into this fight, she's going to heal them up. She's going to make sure they're all 100% good to go. I'm not sure if I'm going to give them a long rest. I'll see how their resources are, but I don't necessarily know if they need them either. But the 5 different things that they can choose from. So one player gets the spell Shield. They can use it 4 times. One has Absorb Elements, that they can use 4 times. One gains Stone Skin, just the spell Stone Skin. One gains Magic Circle, but it moves with them. And one gains Globe of Invulnerability. So all of these... there's 5 players, each of them will get one of these abilities, and they have to discuss between themselves, and it's only for this fight. It's not something that they can use in other dungeons. It makes sense an Abjuration wizard would want to protect other people, and so she is giving these guys these benefits so that they can go in and kill these nasties. And then that's it. I haven't figured out what their reward will be yet, and depending on how it works. So if they go in here, kill this dude, and it's super easy, they're like, okay, we're gonna go kill the next guy. And if they kill all 3 of them, the reward will be very, very big. It will definitely increase in value depending on how many of them they kill. But these creatures are like CR, I think the lowest is CR 9, and they are level 6, so it's going to be tough killing one of them, even with the boons that they've got. But I think they can do it, especially with lower action economy of lesser people. But yeah, that's the dungeon. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, I hope you got a lot from this video.